Thank you for joining us today for automation and orchestration of complex live video solutions in the cloud with iOiO TV and Zixi. My name is John Weskett, and I run the partnership and marketing groups at Zixi. Today, I am joined by Natram Dionarain, Senior Sales Engineer for Partnerships, as well as our partners iOiO CEO Brian Lisi and CTO Zeke Baresh. Hope I got your name right there, Zeke. Today's agenda will be to give an overview of Zixi, brief, get an introduction to iOiO and their products, how Zixi has been integrated with a live demonstration, and then we will take questions at the end. So please put them into the Q&A tab, and we will answer as many as time allows. If we don't get to a question, we have them logged with your email address, and we can follow up with you directly. So to start with, why is this partnership important? With this integrated offering, our mutual customers are able to leverage iOiO and Zixi to offer AWS Cloud-based automation and orchestrated solutions. These software-defined solutions allow our users to easily choose, schedule, and provision end-to-end encoding and distribution workflows while reducing CapEx as well as OpEx. And using iOiO Live Workflows templates let you take advantage of the full feature set of AWS Media Services with minimal changes to existing Zixi workflows, thereby preserving the reliability and resilience of Zixi. So who is Zixi? Our software-defined video platform is used by broadcasters and content creators to source, manage, and distribute live and live linear channels over any IP network using any protocol, on-prem or with any cloud provider using any edge device. We therefore have the largest ecosystem for live video in the world, with over 100,000 global instances in over 100 countries, coming up on 1,000 brand name customers all over the world, over 250 technology partners, enabling unmatched global connectivity anywhere to anywhere. But what are the components of the SDVP? There are 4 pieces. The first is the base Zixi protocol and other transport protocols that define performance, define what the quality of service is going to be, and how the viewers are going to experience it. High quality video means more viewers. Platform interoperability means not mandating the time and effort of a new SDK development. And then once all of the endpoints are connected, signal path continuity. The second piece is the video solution stack that comes from 13 years of Zixi innovation, allowing for any configuration, complex deployments across any IP infrastructure, complex live transcoding and video editing, the management of metadata for ad insertion and closed captioning, and very importantly, being able to achieve and prove service level agreements. Next is the Zixi-enabled network of hundreds of thousands of worldwide endpoints, hundreds of integrated devices, software platforms like our partner iOiO and other service providers that have standardized on Zixi. This community allows for extreme ease of connectivity, speed of deployment, which can now be measured in minutes rather than historical times of weeks or longer, and the ability to start small and extend operations and services as necessary with agile infrastructure and adaptive incremental architecture. And the last piece is Zen Master, a unique control plane across all of these connected devices, networks, and environments that operators and engineers can access from anywhere in the world, enabling virtual operations, which I think, as we all know now, is more important than ever, along with delivering deep audio and video analytics and the ability to manage at maximum scale. So how does the SDVP enable these four components? To start with, Zixi has the best protocol in the industry, utilizing advanced techniques such as dynamic forward error correction and ARQ that result in bandwidth efficiencies to 40% and sub-second worldwide transport latencies and stream bit rates at 5 gigabits per second. However, we realize that there are other protocols being used for various reasons, so we also support 16 additional protocols, including standards-based RISC, RTMP, HLS, NDI for live production, and most importantly, the ability to switch these protocols using the SDVP. Zixi's patent-pending hitless failover is an extension and improvement of SMPTE 2022-7 with an industry-leading packet sequence alignment algorithm. This algorithm works much like a DNA sequence alignment, reconstructing the original sequence of IP packets that best recreates the original stream fragments and allowing for up to 8 nines resiliency depending on engineering architecture. We support multiple codecs with a never-expanding list, and the mantra you will keep hearing from me, any IP network, any protocol, and any cloud. Live quality transcoding is difficult, but we do it at the highest quality, which improves our mutual customer adoption, satisfaction, and retention. We also support other features and functionality broadcasters require, such as recording, time-shifted delivery, auto-slating, and network, transport, and content quality analytics. So not only can you understand what is happening in your Zixi deployment, but also how it impacts your business. Zixi has spent a lot of time and effort developing relationships with our over 250 technology partners who have integrated the SDVP into their devices, software platforms, and standardized on Zixi for the service offerings to deliver extensive worldwide interoperability. Overseeing all of these components is a Zixi Zen Master, which allows for the rapid provisioning, deployment, orchestration, and monitoring of the end-to-end deployment at scale. It allows for the management of the third parties of the Zixi-enabled network through their own user interfaces, giving simplicity across complex multi-party supply chains. The level of data available and centrally visible in Zen Master is unmatched from anything else that you'll find in the broadcast industry. It provides alerting, history, automation of repetitive events, scheduling, detailed reporting, and very, very importantly, root cause analysis of exactly when and where an error occurred in the deployment. So you can tell that if a packet was lost, did it hit an iframe and infect programming, or did it hit a SCSI marker and affect an ad, and then be able to report that impact to management. This is a quick representative subset of our worldwide customer deployments, some of the biggest names in the industry from across all geographies. And here are a few of the partners in the Zixi ecosystem. iOiO and everything else in the end-to-end broadcast workflow, from integrations into cameras, encoders, decoders, QA platforms, forensic watermarking software, things like editing tools and playout systems. And with that brief introduction to Zixi, we'll turn it over to Brian for an overview of their company and technology. Brian?
Cool. Thank you, John, Natram, and the rest of the Zixi team for all your support on the partnership. We greatly appreciate it. And to everyone joining today, our best wishes to you and your family over the holiday season. So who are we? Effectively, we've been in video for 12 years, providing solutions to content providers, video publishers, and media companies. What do we do? More importantly, but what do we do today? And automation is something you're going to hear a lot from us, and providing these automated solutions to create end-to-end video workflows that utilize AWS, the power and the scalability of AWS Media Services and Cloud. Most of our industry contemporaries really know us as Quello, or Quello Concerts back in 2010 when we started. It was really one of the first direct-to-consumer video streaming services. But more importantly, we were cloud first back in 2010. Throughout the decade, 2010 to 2018, we took that same technology, removed the logo, and did over 15 white label direct-to-consumer OTT products. And the outcome from our customer base was handling, managing, building, launching over 26,000 live events. We had billions of video views, either live or VOD, handled over close to 10 million end user customers, both in AVOD and SVOD services. And I kind of draw upon this journey and why is that relevant? Because being cloud first in 2010 and managing this type of scale around ground to cloud, signal acquisition, live linear capture and play out, a lot of event scheduling, and then all the way down to archive, monetization. None of that was mature in 2016, 2017. And, a lot of stuff has changed today. And a lot of it wasn't easily, available software as when we talk about Zixi and the software-defined video platforms, a lot has changed, and our engineers spent probably 90% of their time looking in the rearview mirror, fixing bugs and really innovating, right? And that, those platforms weren't profitable. In any video publisher today, and even back then, it's hard to make money on your content. So in 2018, we had the opportunity to sell Quello and rebrand under iOiO. And I go back to, our mission is automate, automate, automate. You can go to the next slide, John. So we talk about customer benefits. A book I just recently read and had me kind of take a quote was Ray Dalio from Principles. It's pain plus reflection equals progress, right? And drawing upon our 8 years and 15 different OTT customers, we thought back on those workflows, and some of them, took 17,000 hours of custom development. Unsustainable, right? And I mentioned our engineers always doing bug fixes, but the questions we had to ask ourselves was, how do you actually cut that down in half? And then we went a little bit further and said, you know what, how can we do that within a minute? And that's what really drove the business to think about, a few staples of, non-technical people being able to handle what used to be very complex workflows. And how do you, really handle market challenges, right? The one we're experiencing now, the work from home. How do you make remote production easy from a different location, right? Non-technical individuals launch, manage broadcast workflows where used to be expensive engineering, notwithstanding the fact that it was hard to find talent. And then CapEx, OpEx, which is a big theme, just in the industry in general, and, broadcast to software-defined video platforms, like what Zixi's done, and the automation that we're really working and have a mission around on top of AWS, really kind of solve a lot of these problems. You go to the next slide, please. So we think about our partners today, in the spirit of those points is, they needed to launch digital OTT products quickly. They need to make, they need to have profitability on their content. They should be worried about creating great content than hiring a tech team. Orchestrating and scheduling thousands of live events is not easy, takes a lot of coordination. How do you actually do this within a few clicks? Moving live linear capture from all around the world over public internet. Zixi's a leader at this, was not easy years ago. Enter new syndication monetization. How do I actually create more content or reassemble it to drive revenue with virtual MVPDs? Some of the ones we all know of Pluto, Zumo, Tubi. Some people might not have heard of these until 6 months ago, but they are very formidable platforms for new distribution channels. And then, brand content and other digital partners or social, how do you get your content out to them? And these are a lot of the, I'd say use cases that our customers here need and that, we're delivering to them. Next. So we kind of had this productizing and bundling, right? Well, what does that really mean? So when we think of like a one-to-one match here, Media Live is one of AWS's services, and we kind of say, well, that's our live event orchestration and signal acquisition, right? Convert and packaging. For us, it's a very robust video management system that handles, large amounts of library, a lot of ingest of content, being able to encode it for VOD with normalized metadata. Media Tailor, which arguably is one of the biggest ad tech breakthroughs we've had, in quite some time, was around 2017, I think AWS launched it, is monetization for server-side ad insertion. And then kind of wrapped all around that is clearly analytics. And the recent, I'd say, addition to the AWS family that we productized is the link. So it's an encoder for ground to cloud, and also bundles Media Connect, which is a core component to all of us, actually, both Zixi, AWS, and iOiO as well. So platform overview, when we talk about broadcasters, video producers, and content providers, they require, scalable solutions, that process and distribute live linear channels and all these different formats. So we think about automation, the ability for these workflows to seamlessly encode and distribute feeds to all the different platforms. It could be their owned and operated. It could be the virtual MVPDs, as I mentioned earlier. Has to be flexible. You need advanced ABR encoding, something that we've perfected within the automation tools themselves. Server-side ad insertion for SCUDdies, and then CDN configurations, depending on, if you're using CloudFront, Akamai, Fastly, et cetera. We keep flexibility around that. And really the ability to output to multiple destinations with various codecs and packaging, recurring workflow, and the ability to bring up streaming infrastructure on demand. And I go back to the 1 minute accomplishment for us. The other one, channel playout, is really linear channels that are virtual playout channels programmed and closely resembling a broadcast channel. They have programming blocks. They make up an EPG. These blocks may contain live and VOD. You, again, for monetization of ad insertion, but you're also able to kind of create your own SCUDdy markers via Media Tailor. And all of that is kind of, the foundation is the video management service and the VOD workflow, which kind of brings all that stuff together with the various AWS services. So what's under the hood? Me as the non-technical guy, but and I come at it from a business standpoint. 3-4 years ago, when we were doing channel playout, sometimes our footprint at idle in the cloud could be anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000, right? And that was a lot of EC2 and different types of technologies. And, for me as CEO and looking at how do you actually create profitability, and not only for us as an organization, on our own systems, but how do you scale a SaaS offering? And I just constantly reflect back on our customers and even today, how do they make money on content? How can we, democratize so there's profitability in there? And I would argue, serverless by far has been, the most material change. The truly pay for what you use, resource provisioning and service orchestration just drives down cost, eliminates CapEx and OpEx. It really was a game changer for us. And, we were fortunate enough and blessed, the last 2 years to have the opportunity to really lean in and be 100% serverless architecture and on AWS. And it's provided results that, we always hope for, but the data speaks for itself, and we're happy about that. So this is kind of when you log into our system, you see some of our services here. Obviously, I talked today, we're really focused on live workflows, the libraries, the VMS, the channel playout. We're going to show you guys syndication images or 2 other services that we're not going to get into, but they kind of complement the idea of, how do you move mass amounts of libraries, synchronizing multiple S3 buckets with normalization of metadata. Same thing with, huge databases of images, and how do you kind of tie those all together so you get seamless output of whatever service you're offering. So we, again, in the spirit of serverless, everything we do kind of stays within the same architecture. And here we kind of get into the workflow. So, what you're going to see today is really the, with Zixi's software-defined video platform, enables any Zixi transport to stream easily fed into AWS Media Services via, our iOiO live workflow. By using these workflows, interface or API, Zixi-enabled customers really get to take advantage of a full feature set of AWS Media Services with minimal changes to their existing Zixi workflows. And the demo and the whole demonstration we'll get into is really not only those advantages, but also outcomes, right? What are the not only the technical ease of use, but what are some of the business outcomes, and what does that do for your bottom line, or what does that do for your organization, and what does it do for when we talk about the advantages of really democratizing what once was expensive technology, and thinking about bringing these incredible services of AWS and Zixi together, and being able to leverage all of this. What does that mean for a broadcaster, a content producer, and a whole new video 2.0 world that we're heading into, where the content providers and creators might not be the same ones that we've known previous. So as things change, we're pretty proud to be a part of that intersection. So thank you. So you can go to the next one, John. Yep.
Yep. So I think at this point, we'll ask Zeke to do the demonstration.
Thanks.
Yeah. Just give me a second here to enable screen share. Okay. All right. So as Ryan pointed out, this is our dashboard, and we see 3 main services on our dashboard. A video ingest and encoding workflow, also known as the library, on the very right. We have a cloud-based virtual channel playout module on the left, also known as the channel manager. And we have live workflows in the middle. And today we're going to show the integration between Zixi and Zixi ZenMaster within the live workflow concept. So what iOiO Live or Live Workflow is an automation platform that sits on top of AWS Media Services and provisions on-demand resources to stand up and automate different live video workflows. We simplify this process by not completely automating that, but also providing a concept we call blueprints. So what blueprints are, they're predefined video workflows that can contain a number of different media and non-media services within AWS to achieve and accomplish a particular workflow. They can span anywhere from within the input, have multiple outputs, have packaging, even distribution in terms of CDNs. So blueprints are a starting point in our world for any video workflow, and you can think of them simply as templates that you can modify, duplicate, and reuse to fit your needs. So blueprints also have a visualization or a visual representation to show you the topology and all the components that make up this particular blueprint or workflow. So in this particular one, the topology is showing that our workflow is starting with a media connect flow, followed by an input to media live channel that is then configured to create 2 output groups, one being an HLS output groups with 4 renditions that are then pushing to a media store that is then being consumed with a CloudFront distribution. And the other output is an S3 archive of the input, and this particular blueprint is suitable for live events. To show you the variations of this, we're going to pick another blueprint. In this case, it looks very similar to the one we just saw, but now we also have an additional output that's pushing to social media and UDP endpoint. And again, this third one here just shows the different variations. In this case, it's just simply pushing to 3 outputs to social media. And the last one here would be a more generic encoding workflow that is simply producing an OTT style HLS output being distributed via CloudFront or another CDN. Now, what I want to mention here, even though this on first appearance looks pretty standard, what we're really achieving here is an end-to-end workflow, meaning it starts with Media Connect consuming a Zixi source, then creating an output to a channel encoder, encoding that to HLS, depositing that on an origin such as Media Store, and then serving it out via a CDN. So it is typically doing more than just encoding it. It is closing the end-to-end loop for an OTT distribution. So let's look at a real-world example of how this particular workflow would be used in a real-world scenario. So what we have here is the same workflow now running, the same blueprint turned into a workflow that is now running. And in our particular case, this is what it looks like. It's a linear 24/7 linear channel coming from a Zixi source. And if we go and take a look at what that looks in ZenMaster, we can see that this is the actual channel, and it's being pushed by using a target to the iOiO provisioned workflow and distributed over, in this case, a CloudFront CDN. So we see the end URL. We have other information here. But let's go deeper now and take a look at what we need to recreate the steps to get here. How do we do this from scratch? So the only prerequisite that we have to connect the Zixi ZenMaster ecosystem to the iOiO platform is following. We start off by creating an API key. So we can create a new API key or use our existing one. So I'm just gonna use this API key. And within the iOiO platform, we would go to settings, apps, Zixi ZenMaster, and we would paste our API key and save that. This is all we need to make the two systems talk to each other. And from here on, we can go ahead and go back to our live workflows and create a new workflow. So for this demonstration, we're going to be creating a workflow that simulates a typical use case for a live event. So we would want to have an archive in addition to an HLS distribution. So we're going to choose this workflow. All we need to give it is a name and a description. And of course, choose the region we want to deploy it in. We can deploy it in many multiple regions. Additionally, because this is all on demand and cloud-based, we have the ability to schedule the provisioning of this particular workflow for a future date and time. So we can choose that future date and time where that workflow would automatically be brought up and taken down. But for right now, we're just going to create it and launch it immediately. So I'm just going to hit save. And it's ready to start. So by pressing start, we are initiating the creation of the cloud resources in AWS to provision the necessary services, their permissions, their connection, the particular sequence which they need to be brought up in to accommodate a working video encoding workflow that we see on the screen here. So in our particular case, again, this starts because we're expecting a Zixi source. We would start by creating a media connect flow that is then configured as an input to a media live channel, which is also created in real time, meaning on demand. Then that channel would have the configuration of these two outputs, both of which would deposit the encodings to, in one case, to an S3 archive or an S3 bucket with archives, and in the primary group, when HLS being deposited to a media store, and then that being fronted by CloudFront. All this is happening right now. It's automatically happening, and we can see that this deploy is in progress, and it's going to take about 45 minutes to bring this up. Now, while that is happening, we're just going to go here in ZenMaster and take a look at our targets. So as we can see, the video workflow that we just created in the iOiO video automation platform is now being registered as a target in ZenMaster. So it's prefixed by the name as well as the individual unique identifier that is assigned to it in the IO. And what that allows us to is really start using it right here. So if we have our live event source coming from a Zixi source, in this case, a Zixi broadcaster, all we have to do is hand it over and push it to our newly created workflow, which is the registered target. So I'm going to assign this live event source to go to this newly created target. And let's update this diagram here.
Yeah, and Zeke, just to be clear, it was 45 seconds, not 45 minutes. Okay.
Did I say minutes? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's all right.
No, it's seconds. It's under a minute.
Yeah, there you go. 3 clicks live, 1 minute.
Right. So yes, 3 clicks live. So now this diagram updated, and if we go back to our target, now our new target is green, and we're now pushing to this newly created workflow. Going back to iOiO, we see that our workflow is now running, which means it has been provisioned and is now encoding the video. So we can see that we have no active alerts here. We actually see a preview of the source that's being pushed to Media Live via Media Connect. We also see the CDN URL, as well as the S3 archive path. And what we have here is some information gathered from AWS Media Services. We can see if we're not clear of what the topology looks like, we can get some statistics that are available from the encoder and other services such as Media Connect. We can see a list of active alerts plus the history, and any other controls here that we can stop, delete, restart, etc. This workflow. So now we're distributing to OTT, and let me just go back and show you what the life cycle of this channel, how it can continue to its OTT distribution. So going back to the dashboard. Sorry, I should actually open something. All right, so going back to the dashboard, we would now go into the channel manager. And what the channel manager really is our cloud-based playout solution that can support both existing channels, which is our case. In this case, we took a signal from a Zixi channel with an existing linear channel, and we brought it up to iOiO, which we now see in here. Or we can additionally create new channels within this playout software. So what does that look like? I'm just going to show you the end result. Sorry. Let's start by creating a new channel. So there are two types of channels, as I already mentioned. So my Zixi channel. And this, when we talk about channels here, this is not an encoding workflow or an encoder channel. This is a linear TV style channel. So description. And we have two types of channels. Ones that are external, such as the ones we just pushed from within ZenMaster and from within Zixi environment, or a virtual one. So if we choose an external one, all we need to give it here is the distribution URL, which was the case with the linear channel we just ingested. Or we can choose a virtual channel, in which case we created our new channel here. So how do we program a channel once we're here? We have up at the top our timeline, which is basically our schedule. And we have our playhead, which is where the current playout is. And on the right side, we have our channel preview, and there's currently nothing playing. So here in the middle is our VOD library of existing pre-encoded videos that we've ingested into iOiO. And those could also be archives from live events that we brought up, or we captured from, or were pushed from a Zixi source. So to create a channel, we simply need to reload this. We simply need to drag and drop it over here, which in terms would create our programming block. What a programming block is really, it's an EPG entry representing that particular programming. A programming block can contain a couple of videos within itself. In this case, we're putting a 15-second ad slate before the content and a 15-second ad slate after the content. Now, this ad slate would trigger the system to put ad insertion, provide ad insertion opportunities by decorating the manifest with SCTE35 markers. And if we want to continue programming this, we'll pick another video and create a new block. Of course, this block we can name something else. We can call it the morning show. We can give it a description, even a color, and we can also put some ad insertion opportunities. So now what we really did is we're starting to program a linear channel, and we're just going to save this. And once our playhead reaches the start of content, it's going to produce a live stream that's natively distributed over HLS. Now, to make things more interesting is, let's say we want to bring in our Zixi live event that we just brought in with our workflow. We can go to live programming, give it some time, give it from Zixi. And I'm just going to take the URL that we had in here. And that's all we need to switch to a live feed coming from Zixi, and then continue to program pre-programmed content after that. So, and put some ads maybe. So right now, this programming represents our newly created linear channel that is a combination of existing VOD assets plus a cutover to a live feed from Zixi source and then back to a pre-programmed content. So
yeah, maybe just show the EPG. It's up to the right next to the channel manager.
Well, for some reason it's not working. So yeah, no, I lost my RPG just now, so I can't show that. All right, I think that pretty much shows the ease of use of creating linear channels and feeding existing or newly created Zixi sources into them, whether that's a virtual channel or creating a channel from an existing linear channel that could be transported via Zixi into the channel manager and creating OTT experiences and additionally adding server-side ad insertion via media tailor, as well as providing new opportunities for ad markers, depending on whether that's a new channel or an existing channel. So I'll hand it over to the hosts for any Q&A at this point. So John, is there any questions we can answer from the attendees, or did I lose audio?
Oh, yeah, sorry. I was talking there on mute, so it's not to disrupt your your demonstration. Thank you for that. Before we get to Q&A, we're going to do some key takeaways. But before that, if you do have any questions, please put them into the Q&A tab, and we will get to them in just a moment. But what are the key takeaways from today's presentation and this integrated offering? iOiO productizes the power of AWS Media Services with an automation and orchestration layer that enables the full potential of the cloud through an intuitive, easy-to-use interface that has integrated the software-defined video platform. The integrated offering democratizes live workflow orchestration, and iOiO live workflows templates abstract the complexity of setting up technical broadcasting workflows, letting non-technical users easily deploy in just a few clicks. And lastly, the solution is cost-effective for live streaming deployments that allow users to quickly and easily monetize workflows, reduce engineering expenses, while providing full access to the power of the AWS Cloud. So with that, we will go to Q&A, but I've also just launched a poll that will say if you would like a follow-up talking to Zixi, talking to iOiO, get the recording, please take a moment to fill that out. So our first question is, can iOiO use my existing AWS Elemental services?
Zeke, you want to take that one?
Yeah, so iOiO, the iOiO platform could be installed in your existing account, and therefore automating your access to the existing services. Now, because we are an automation tool, we're best at bringing up and bringing down those resources on demand, and therefore, if you have existing ones which you brought up by hand, it does not make sense to kind of control them. What we can do is we can use these existing resources, if they already exist, as inputs or outputs to serve your newly provisioned workflows, if that makes sense. So yes, it can work in your own AWS account. It can work with your media services and use existing media services to feed and to hand over to your newly created workflows that you can use our platform to provision.
All right, thank you. Next question. Where are your channel contents seated? S3?
Excellent question. Yes, S3 is the native storage for all mezzanine and encoded content. We use S3 in both cases. In a video encoding workflow, that would be both the input and the output being S3. Yes.
Okay. Next is, how flexible is blueprint customization?
Excellent question. While we try to create as many best practice blueprints that make sense, we are rolling out a blueprint editor that would allow you to basically create your own blueprints from scratch or tweak existing ones and turn any knob that AWS allows you to on their encoding workflow, for example. A media live channel has a lot of options in both transport configuration, packaging configuration, but also a lot of knobs in encoding, bitrate, and all these things. So we would make all of these available to you to tweak and create a blueprint that fits your particular needs and that conforms to your particular standards that you can then, for lack of a better term, create a template and replicate and automate. So short answer is very soon you will be able to tweak anything in a blueprint.
Okay. Next question. If someone tried to accomplish the demo with native AWS Media Services, how long would that take?
That's an excellent question. Depending on the complexity of the workflow, typically we see that, so there's two ways to answer this question. One would be through the AWS console, and the other one would be through the AWS APIs. In both cases, the complexity would depend on the services involved, but very simply put, even a simple workflow such as the ones we saw today spans at least, a 3, 4, 5 console windows that you have to do in a particular sequence. You have to switch the windows. You have to make sure you have the right permissions and roles, and create the right resources in that sequence. So it could take anywhere from 5 minutes to an hour, depending on your skill set. Similar to that, doing this from an API, what we see developers typically do is basically code or hard code for 1 or 2 workflows that expect to do a sequence of API calls to bring the resources up. What we've done there is you don't need to do that. Basically, you specify the blueprint, and we would know what to do in what sequence. So you wouldn't have to basically code against a particular workflow. You can just code against start workflow API call. So this is a tremendous time saver because we do all the heavy lifting on the back end.
And Zeke, we've also simplified the APIs, right? We not only have the interface that you demonstrated, but if someone wanted to use our APIs, they could as well.
So one thing I'd like to mention is everything you saw on the demonstration today is available via an API. So to bring up, and again, going back to my previous answer, to bring up a particular workflow, you may be interacting with anywhere from 5 to 55 or maybe 500 AWS APIs in a particular sequence. With us, you only need to interact with 1 or 2 or 3 API calls, which basically say start blueprint 1, give it parameters XYZ, and then you're basically making a few API calls versus a few hundred, which is going directly with AWS. So that is an integration time saver, and also gives you the ability to not be coded against 1 or 2 workflows, but any ones that you can design in our console.
Okay, thank you. Next question. What is the GFX capability in cloud playout setup?
I would assume we're talking about CG or graphic overlays in the playout.
Let's assume that, sure.
So if we assume that, then our approach to creating channels is different. We pre-encode the content. Therefore, any graphics would need to be provisioned upfront, because one of the great kind of optimizations we do is that we are serverless. We don't need to encode real time if we don't have to, and therefore real-time graphic capabilities would either have to get shifted to be rendered on the client or pre-rendered at time of content creation.
Okay. This one's for Brian. What is the pricing model of iOiO?
So right now, we have two different SaaS kind of tiers, I would say. One comes down to either the number of events or the number of linear channels, or kind of the number of blueprints, or if you were to think about channel playout. So the low tier is $2,500 a month, and the other tier is $4,500 a month. So we've done our best to, keep it at an incredibly affordable price.
All right, and back to Zeke, how do you accomplish ad management during a live feed?
Oh, excellent question. So there's a couple of setups here that we can discuss. One is if the live feed does already contain ad insertion opportunities or markers, also known as SCTE35 markers in the stream. We would take those and preserve them. At time of encoding, we would also decorate the manifest with the necessary SCTE35 decoration, and then pass it on to media tailor. Now, it is entirely up to the customer or client to provide their own ad server or ad server tag that would be used to insert, make the ad decisioning and serve the ads back to media tailor. So that's one scenario. In case there are no ad markers in the original live source, we can give you an API to insert your own, what we call cloud SCTE or cloud ad marker insertion. And in the case of a pre-programmed channel, you have the opportunity to choose to put ads either in between videos or even in the videos themselves, meaning if you have a longer piece of content, you can decide where to place ads within that piece of content. So all of these are available.
All right, I think we've got time for one or two more questions. The next is there an offline playlist creation option?
Excellent question. There is. I did not have the opportunity to show it, but we do have a playlist creation interface that allows you to create playlists out of which you can create program blocks. So in a channel programming scenario, that would mean that different editors would be able to create their playlists and then have them ready for whoever is programming the final channel to just use those predefined playlists. So yes, we do have that.
All right, and last question for Brian. If I bring our existing linear channels, how does iOiO help with monetization?
So one of them is obviously with the server-side ad insertion or the SCTE insertion. If the linear channel has those SCTE markers, you're able to leverage Media Tailor, which is built into our workflow. As such, wherever that distribution of that HLS feed goes, the server-side ad insertion is personalized. So every stream is unique to that user. And depending on the ad decisioning server, or you might be using a third party like SpotX, you get much more targeted kind of personalized ads. And this can be, across the entire ecosystem. So we see good monetization, higher CPMs, and lastly, we help a lot of our customers actually get more distribution as well with the relationships we have with other virtual MVPDs or other cross-programming partners. We know that that need content, and we all realize the demand is far greater than the supply. So there's never enough good content.
Thank you for that, Brian. Zeke, thank you very much. And we'd like to thank all of the participants for joining us today and spending the hour with the Zixi and iOiO overview and introduction of this new integrated offering. We appreciate it, and we will talk to you soon.